Hi everyone, this is Dustin, the blind Minnesotan. Today I want to talk about how it is and how my life is being a visually impaired person living in Columbia Heights, Minnesota. The last video I made was like a year ago, and at that point I was working at Discount 70, the store that used to be by my house. So I was literally walking to work and I was literally walking back. So, that store closed. They moved to a different location. In the meantime, they laid me off, and now I work and live a completely different lifestyle than I did back then. So today I'm making a different podcast episode to kind of explain how my life as a visually impaired person is going now. Because, there's not a lot of us out in the world. There's not a lot of visually impaired people out there. Most people have autism, ADHD, mental health issues, and a lot of people with our condition are completely blind. There's a few of us that are like visually impaired like me, that are high functioning enough to trick society to thinking that we're normal. So I'm going to come talk to you about it and I have a visual part of this because, Facebook does not really like audio stuff. So then if you're listening to this on Facebook, just listen to it in the background and keep on cleaning your house or something, because I would put an audio file on Facebook where people can listen to in the background and stuff, but Facebook does not allow that yet. So, sorry, you just have to stare at my face and listen to the background. So, the number one thing that has changed since last time I talked to you about it is where I work. When I worked at Discount 70, when I first moved out here 3 years ago, as a blind and visually impaired person, I could walk to work because it was right by my house. But they closed, they went bankrupt, and when they closed and went bankrupt, I had to get a different job. They're now open again, but they're not by my house anymore, so, and I already have a different job, so why should I leave my stable job to go work there when they have a chance of closing again, because the economy sucks. So, after Discount 70 closed, I ended up working at Bob's Produce Ranch up in Fridley, Minnesota. It's right on University, and I took the 10 bus there. Every day I would take the 10U bus to work, get off on Osborne University, the bus stop there, in the snow, the rain, whatever. I would put on my boots and my thick raincoat, and I would walk to Bob's. And I loved working at Bob's, and I worked there for about 9 months, and I loved it there. Mai and Yang were good owners, and they ran the store well, but customers just stopped coming because there's a Cubs, an Aldi's, a Target right up the block, and there's Mike's Discount Foods where I currently work right across the street. So there's so much more affordable options that Bob's is struggling right now, and they had to lay a bunch of people off, they cut hours and blah blah. And when you have to pay rent, right, you can't pay rent with only working 1 day a week. So with how expensive rents are out here in the suburbs, so I ended up getting a job, quitting my Bob's Produce Ranch and getting a job at Mike's Discount Foods across the street. And I still take the same 10U bus to work, get off at the same bus stop, but I just, in the winter, I put on my thick winter boots and I walk to work from the bus stop. If it's really bad, I'll just pay to Uber to work because my work is only 7 miles away. So my Uber costs one way might only be $16.50 an hour, $16.50 a way. So yes, I am giving up an hour of my pay to get to work because I'm visually impaired and I can't have a car, right? But still, even if you're a sighted person, you still have to use your minimum wage pay to maintain your car or buy bus fare to get to work. So no matter what you get to get to work, it will cost you money, right? So, I pay $16 to get to work, $16 to go home, so be lucky I work 9.5-hour days, right? So, so I do make enough money where Ubering to work and then Ubering back home is worth it. And I work in the produce section at Mike's Discount Foods. So what happens is when Walmart, Target, all these Costco, Whole Foods, or whatever don't want their food anymore because it's not meeting their standards, or the shipment's late and they already got a shipment from a different supplier. They'll deny or reject the food. Like, nope, food suppliers, we don't want this. So then those food suppliers will come to Mike's Discount Foods and say, hey, we have this food rejection that these big corporate grocery stores don't want. And what me, Matt, Christina, Heidi, Yang do is when they come, we unload it off the truck. My boss, Matt, and Christina gives them money for what the food is worth. And then once they're in our warehouse, we break the pallets down. And then from there, each part of that shipment gets sent to a different Mike's Discount Food store. And then before they come pick it up, we put it in our produce fridge so that it stays fresh until the other stores come and get it. And then once it's in the produce fridge, we take it from the produce fridge and we put it in the produce section at our store. And then later in the week, the other Mike's Discount Food stores will come and they'll take their value or their chunk of the product that we got. So me as a visually impaired man, I do not do the truck unloading. No. I refuse to unload the trucks. Because with my low vision, that is not unsafe. I don't unload any trucks. But the part I'm willing to do is once they're off the truck and into the loading dock, I will help my boss, Matt, Christina, or my coworker, Heidi, unload, break up the pallets and make them as smaller pallets. And then I'll help them put it in the fridge. And once it's in the fridge, put it on the store shelves. So some days I get paid just to organize produce for our store and all the other mics. Some days, when there's no shipment, I'm getting paid to bring food from the produce fridge onto the produce section fridges. And for a visually impaired guy like me, right, it's very difficult because I with my vision, it's hard for me to see some of the moldy strawberries, some of the moldy blueberries. So once in a while, I might miss one or two, right? But you'll be lucky my other coworkers have 20/20 vision, and they're able to kind of pick up and clean up some of the few pieces I might actually miss. And I take Uber to work. I take the city bus to work. I love what I'm doing because a lot of the customers who come to my work are disabled like me or senior citizens. So they're on a very fixed income when they come to Mike's, right? So I'm a disabled person that's stocking a grocery store that helps low-income senior citizens and disabled people. So I like doing what I'm doing because it benefits me because I'm out of the house and I'm making money, right? And then I'm helping low-income people that are seniors and disabled people who shop at the store. Because if I wasn't there stocking the produce shelves, right, disabled people and senior citizens won't be able to buy it. So, it's one of those things that I really like what I'm doing. And how I work at a grocery store, right? So when I'm hungry, I normally buy some food at work, and I bring a little bit home with me every day. And whatever I can't get at work, I pay for this membership called Walmart Plus. And guys, Walmart Plus is totally worth the $12.99 a month. It's totally worth it. And because of the Walmart Plus app goes by zip code. So when you pay for the Walmart Plus membership, it will connect you to the Walmart in that zip code. And because I live between Fridley and Roseville, right? Fridley and Roseville are two different zip codes, but I'm evenly broken in between them, right? So when I'm on my Walmart app, when I'm ordering food, it'll ask me, do you want it from the Roseville Walmart or do you want it from the Fridley Walmart? And then all the time I choose Fridley because the Fridley Walmart is so much more better than the Roseville Walmart. So I will have the Fridley Walmart deliver whatever food I can't get at Mike's Discount Food / my work. Whatever food I can't get there, I'll have Walmart Plus / Walmart deliver the food to my house. So then, I don't have to worry about someone who can't drive about getting off the bus, walking down the icy sidewalk from the bus stop to the Walmart, loading up my utility cart with food, pushing the utility cart through the snowy sidewalks, to the bus stop. Nope, I don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. I just have Walmart deliver me food, and it's worth the $12.99. And then with the Walmart Plus, you do also get a free subscription service, but for videos and stuff. But the negative about the free subscription service is that it has ads. So I don't use it. I don't use the video service that Walmart provides because I find enough on YouTube and to watch for free and enough on Tubi to watch for free. So, but even if you don't use the video subscription service from Walmart, just the $12.99 fee for the food delivery, definitely when you're blind and visually impaired and cannot drive, is totally worth it. It's totally worth it. So between buying food at Mike's Discount Foods, where I work, and Walmart, so I'll buy some blueberries and stuff at work, and then that are in okay condition, and then whatever else my work doesn't sell, I have Walmart just delivered to my house. Totally worth the $12.99. And then when I want things to do, right? As a visually impaired man, you want things to do. You don't just want to go to work and then sit in your house, right? So I will take, for things to do, I will take the 801 bus that goes Monday through Friday, that goes from the Brooklyn Center shopping center. It used to be where Walmart used to be, and it goes through over 694, and then goes through Columbia Heights, the 801, through St. Anthony into the Rosedale Center in Roseville. So if it's on Wednesday or Thursday, I will take that 801 bus and I will go to Brooklyn Center, shop at the shopping center in Brooklyn Center, or I'll go to Roseville and shop at Five Below, Barnes & Noble, the Apple Store, Best Buy, DXL, and all that in Roseville. And then, or if I go towards Brooklyn Center, I go to Burlington, TJ Maxx, Five Below. I go to Empire Foods, because of the bus. And sometimes if it's a weekend and the 801 bus isn't running, I'll take the 10 that goes past my work all the way to the Northtown Mall in Blaine. And then at the Northtown Mall, you can get this thing called a Metro Micro shuttle. And the Metro Micro has an app. So once you get to the Northtown Mall and Blaine, you can open up the app and you can schedule a ride right in the app. And they'll pick you up from the Northtown Mall and take you to all the major shopping centers in Blaine. You can get to the Blaine Walmart. You can get to the Blaine Lowe's. You can get to the Blaine Home Depot. You can get to the Blaine Menards. You can get to the Blaine FN Bargains. FN Bargains is an amazing store in Blaine. You can get to the Blaine Kohl's. You can get to the Blaine Goodwill. You can get to the Blaine Savers. You can get to the Salvation Army Family Store. You can get to the Blaine Denny's. You can get to the Blaine Culver's. You can get to the Blaine Planet Smoothie. I love my Planet Smoothie. If you see my Instagram posts, you know I love my Planet Smoothie. You can get to the Blaine Planet Smoothie. And you can get to all these high-end restaurants and shopping centers in Blaine where, you can work, where you can eat and stuff. So sometimes for entertainment, I will take the 10 bus up to the Northtown Mall and then get the Metro Micro service. And then Metro Micro will help me get around Blaine. Or sometimes I'll even take the 10 bus to the Northtown Mall in Blaine, and then I'll hop on the 805 or the 827 buses. So the 805 will take you to the high-end shopping center in Coon Rapids, where there is a Texas Roadhouse, where there's a Costco, where there's a Cub Foods, where there's Aldi's and Dick's Sporting Goods and all the high-end shops in Coon Rapids. So the 801 bus will take you from the Northtown Mall / Blaine to the high-end shopping center in Coon Rapids. And the 827 bus will take you from the Northtown Mall in Blaine to downtown Minneapolis, or the 827 bus from the Northtown Mall in Blaine to Anoka Ramsey in Coon Rapids, the big Mercy Hospital in Coon Rapids, downtown Anoka where all the cool bars are and stuff. I'll take I'll bus to the Northtown Mall, hop on the 827 bus or the 805 bus. If I don't want to do something in Blaine, I'll hang out in the Coon Rapids Shopping Center, or I'll hang out in downtown Anoka and go bar hopping. I do love as a visually impaired man, right? I do like bar hopping in downtown Anoka because, in downtown Anoka, you're not going to have drug dealers outside the restaurant. You could, drug dealers are everywhere, but the chances of having a drug dealer and people passed out drunk and stuff in downtown Anoka is very, very slim compared to downtown Minneapolis, because downtown Minneapolis is a bigger city. So I like going bar hopping in downtown Anoka because it's just a safer place to bar hop. And downtown Anoka has restaurants, like the bars, all right next to each other at a strip mall, because back in the 1800s, before cars, that's how the areas were built. So then, as me as a visually impaired man, I can easily, walk around that area once I get up there at the bus. And downtown Anoka also has a nice public parking ramp. So if you want to drive, you can still drive there and park there for free in the parking ramp. And downtown Anoka has free street parking. There's only one place where you have to park in downtown Anoka, and that you have to pay, and that's the city park, the city hall parking lot, and the government center parking ramp. So as long as you don't park in the government center parking ramp or the city hall parking lot, the rest of downtown Anoka is free to park at. And just aim for the free parking ramp. It's called the Anoka Municipality Parking Ramp. The free parking ramp is called the Anoka Municipality Parking Ramp. And you can park there for free, because it's made to support all the bars and stuff. And downtown Anoka has Ubers and all that stuff. So a lot of times on my day off, if it's not snowing or raining or hailing and it's a nice day, I'll go downtown Anoka and I'll have little shots of something not too powerful at each one of the bars I go to, and I can have some fun there. Because as a single visually impaired man, right, I don't have no boyfriend, I have no girl, I don't have any girlfriends, I don't have any kids, I don't have any pets, right? You can easily, when you can't drive, you can easily sit in your house and say, oh, I'm going to be depressed all day, But I refuse to be that kind of visually impaired person. You mean? So since I've been living down out here in Columbia Heights for the last 3 years, right? I know all the bus routes out here. I take Uber when the weather is crappy. I have Walmart deliver me my food. You mean? I buy a lot of my furniture and all that from Target, and then Target and Fridley will deliver the stuff to my house, and then I can use my tools to assemble the furniture in my house. So, you mean, and so I love living out here as a visually impaired man. It just kind of sucks because most of us, our people, live in like St. Paul or Minneapolis because of the city bus connections. But I loved my time, a lot of things, when I lived in downtown Minneapolis, right? I'm like, cool, I can get to a new suburbs I want in 30 minutes and blah, blah, blah. I mean, there's a lot of pros, right? So if you're disabled and visually impaired or blind and you don't plan to work and you just plan to live off Social Security, downtown Minneapolis and downtown St. Paul are the best for you. But if you're just visually impaired like me, right, and you still want to work, downtown Minneapolis and downtown St. Paul are not the best because with the lack of office workers going down there and supporting businesses, there's a lack of businesses, so then there's a lack of jobs. So I moved out to Columbia Heights because I want to be a visually impaired person that works. So that's why I had to move out here. But you know, and I like it out here because a lot of my neighbors, you know, are quiet. They work, they come home, they spend time with their kids, they go to bed and they sleep. And I live in Columbia Heights is a very South American immigrant community. So we have a lot of Ecuadorian restaurants. We have a lot of Brazilian restaurants. We have, you know, so once in a while as a visually impaired person, it doesn't help. Sorry. It doesn't help that I can't really see a lot around me and I don't know Spanish. So, you know, once in a while I do have issues, like, because a lot of my neighbors have issues with the English. So a lot of my neighbors have issues with English. So it's hard for them to understand me. And because I'm visually impaired, it's also hard for me to see their body language. But so sometimes in my area I get kind of frustrated because it's hard for me to communicate with my neighbors or know who is who, because when I'm visually impaired I can't see you. So when you're talking to me, I don't know who's talking to me because I work in retail, right? I run into thousands of people a day at my job. So then I'm trying to remember, oh, is this voice from my neighbor? Or is this voice from someone at work? So when I'm out in the general public, right, because I can't see you, sometimes I don't know who you are. And then the other issue is, right, and I don't know Spanish that well. So that puts another barrier, right? So what I do is the iPhone has this translate app. So when I want to talk to my heavily Ecuadorian neighbors that mostly speak Spanish, I will use the translation app on my iPhone, and that's how I'll communicate with them because they can see 2020. And I'll speak into the translation app, and the translation app will turn what I'm saying into Spanish text. And then because they're 2020 vision, they can actually read my phone. So then that's how like we kind of communicate, you know, so I can kind of get things what I need in my neighborhood. And I chose this neighborhood because me and the Ecuadorians have a lot of similar values. Like Ecuadorians a lot of them are mostly Christians. And they're mostly old school Catholics. A lot of Ecuadorians are Catholics. So you mean I'm Lutheran Christian, right? So we're the more party Christian. We like the modern rap music. We like the modern we love Jesus music. You mean I am Lutheran, so I'm more the modern part of Christianity. And a lot of the Ecuadorians are the old part of Christianity, like the Catholics, where you feel you have to like cut your wrist and drain the blood onto the cross and do sacrifices for God to love you. You know what I mean? Like animal sacrifices. They're more like that old school kind of Christian. So it's not wrong. It's not, but at least I can relate to my neighbors because we both love Jesus. Well, when I lived in other parts of like downtown Minneapolis, or when I used to hang out in like North Minneapolis or South Minneapolis, there's a lot of there's Christians. A lot of the African Americans in that area are Christian, but there's also a lot of Muslims, Jewish people. Like Jewish people, Muslims, I can get along with, because they're dedicated to their religion too, right? But then you have them. It's harder for me to get along with them compared to the Ecuadorians, South Americans, and the Mexicans. That group, it's harder because they're not as religious, right? We don't have the same kind of religious thing. But then there were some people down in Minneapolis, who were anti-God, pro the devil, blah, 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 and I just didn't click with that crowd. So, and the African Americans, a lot of them in North and South Minneapolis are religious, but their version of Christianity is even more loose than Lutherans are. How on TV you always see them clapping and dancing with, in the mega churches and all that kind of stuff, and sing, and the whole crowd is like preaching and singing and doing their body movements or whatever, like the ones you see on TV. A lot of African American churches are more like evangelical, so they're even more looser than Lutheranism. And so then it's like, so they're like a little bit too loose, and the Ecuadorians and South Americans are a little bit too Catholic. But then I moved to Columbia Heights because Columbia Heights is one of the communities along the bus line that are more towards my values. So me as a visually impaired man who's really about Jesus and all that kind of stuff, right? But I'm not old school Jesus. I'm kind of more middle, neutral Jesus. Lover. It's Columbia Heights also had my values, so I gave up some of my transportation things, for my values. And, so on the Sundays I get off from work, I will take an Uber to Hope Lutheran Church in North Minneapolis to go to church. So I'll take an Uber to go to church. And Hope Lutheran Church is right on the North Minneapolis Brooklyn Center border. So half the church parking lot is in Brooklyn Center, and then half the church parking lot is in Minneapolis. But because that part of Brooklyn Center doesn't have their own area code, they use Minneapolis in their address. So cause here, for example, where I live in Columbia Heights, we don't have our own postal service. So then we end up using Minneapolis' postal service. So, but it's funny is, if you go 2 blocks north, there is that part of Columbia Heights has their own postal service. So a lot of times, I'll just put Columbia Heights instead of Minneapolis when I'm writing my my address down on letters and stuff, and the mail people will know okay, this is in Columbia Heights, even if it's Minneapolis, because they know the area. So so I go to Hope Lutheran Church in North Minneapolis / almost Brooklyn Center if I just walk across the parking lot. On Sundays when I have off, and I go with my friend Will and his friend AJ that I met at Bob's Produce Ranch. Because when I first came out here 3 years ago, me and my vision impairment were nervous because, when I lived in Maple Grove as a vision impaired person, / vision impaired man, I felt more confident at first because I knew everything in Maple Grove with the bike trails and stuff was walkable. and I could do it as long as the bike trails were like, plowed and stuff, And in Rogers, when I lived in Rogers, I lived in the downtown part of Rogers over by Cubs, so everything was plowed, walkable. I knew I can do it, right? But when I moved to Columbia Heights, I never knew this area. So I was a little bit nervous, right? But between Uber, Metro Mobility, the city bus, Walmart Plus delivering my food, I'm actually doing really good out here. And then going to church with my friend Will and his friend AJ that I met at Bob's Produce Ranch. I am loving it out here. And sometimes I do get depressed because I don't see a lot of people like me when I'm on the 10. I don't see a lot of people like me that are visually impaired and stuff and single when I'm at work, because in Fridley I'm mostly dealing with seniors or low-income families and disabled people who have autism or in a wheelchair or whatever. And sometimes I do get depressed because I don't see anyone like me. But then I have to remind myself that I moved to an area where there's not a lot of people like me. So then, I have to do some positive talk about how I have to make a pros and cons list to still prove that living here in Columbia Heights is worth it. And if you're visually impaired and you want to start working and start building up your resume, coming to a place like Mike's Discount Foods in Fridley is perfect because we're a small company, right? And the hiring manager actually works with me at the store. So you can actually walk up to him and say, hey, I'm blah, 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 blah. Here's my resume. I actually want to work here. So then, and I'm visually impaired like Dustin is, but I actually can do this. You might have to accommodate me a little bit, but I actually can do this. And Metro Mobility in Fridley, you guys, runs 24 hours a day. So if you live in New Brighton, or if you live in Fridley, or if you live in Columbia Heights, or Hilltop, or Coon Rapids, or Anoka, right? You can easily take Metro Mobility to the Mike's Discount Food store, even if you don't live on a bus line, and take Metro Mobility to work, and then take Metro Mobility back home. So even if you're visually impaired, you want a job, and you can see coming to a place like Mike's Discount Foods in Fridley, where I work, is a good start place to build your resume and contribute to society, and then build skills in retail, and then you can slowly go up the ladder. Like Mike's Discount Foods can be a start. And the next thing you know, you work there at Mike's Discount Foods for 2 years, prove yourself, then get a job at Cub Foods, or Target, or Lunds and Barley's. And then once you get to a big, nice, high-end corporate grocery store, you stay there and you prove yourself, and suddenly, one day you might be promoted to manager of the store. And then you're getting paid enough where you don't need Social Security. It's one of those things, right? As I love living out here in Columbia Heights as a visually impaired man. I do have, but instead of me just bitching and complaining like, oh no, I can't get around because of transportation, right? I'm like, well, I just have to bite the bullet and take an Uber. Trust me, half the Uber drivers in my area know who I am because I'm taking Uber so much. So come check out Columbia Heights and Fridley as a visually impaired man, and come check out all the apartments along the 10N and 10U bus route. And check out apartments in Blaine in the Metro Micro area. And check out the apartments in Coon Rapids along the 805 bus and the 827 bus. Well, I hope you guys have a good day. Bye-bye.